Who was the first Filipino artist that you really collaborated with, and why?
My first Filipino artist that I really... Well, I worked with so many Filipino artists throughout the years. I think there's been many people that I've been able to work with. Like the first one, obviously, everyone knows me for working with Cherise.
Yes.
And also through the years, I've worked with. I love working with just different singers, especially biriteras. They're a special place in my heart. So when it comes to Filipino singers, I've worked with Regine, Lani.
But how did it start?
How did it start?
Yeah.
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know. It's only as of recent that I was able to truly connect with my working with Filipino artists. I've worked here and there. You know, when I would go back to the Philippines, I would, maybe do an ASAP thing or do, a one-off. But it's after 2020 is when more Filipino artists started to call me for more stuff. Like then I started getting calls from ABS-CBN and Sir Jonathan Manalo. He's been, connecting me with different artists. And that's when I started. I've worked with I've met all of these artists before. Me and my sister used to, do a lot of front acts. We would be
of course,
the front act.
Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. But I think it was after the pandemic. The pandemic, even though it closed a lot of stuff, I think everyone got kind of bored. I mean, we all started calling each other, and during that time, I was able to really connect and really. The past 5 years has been really busy for me in terms of connecting with Filipino artists, and that was very also intentional. I wrote a post recently on my Facebook that I wanted to make it very intentional this year that I start working with more Filipino artists. I think that's been something on my mind, and I really want to make an effort to do that. I've been able to work with a lot of different singers, but to be able to work with Filipino artists is a different feeling. It feels like there's like a almost like a purpose,
right?
To it. So, yeah.
Ang galing eh, because like you mentioned a while ago, right? You struggled. And finally, when you got there, you're not one of those people who will just shut the door on someone who's knocking when in fact, at some point in your life, you were the one knocking.
Mm.
And then you started off mainstream. You could have said no to your roots, but instead, you proactively opened your doors to your roots.
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with you speaking the vernacular, growing up in a household where your parents really immersed you in the culture? Number two, is that one of the reasons why the OPM album volumes germinated in your head? Explain I want to get inside your head kasi.
My head, okay. In terms of me being able to,
like your door is wide open to Filipino artists, and that's I'm inspired. You're very inspiring in that regard, diba? Because there are other Filipinos who say they're Filipinos, but when other Filipino artists come knocking on their doors, I don't have time for you. You don't.
And I hate that. And
you're here in my podcast now. You know what I mean? That's a perfect testament.
Thank you, first of all. Being able to work with both Filipino and international artists have been a true blessing, but it also does create that, when I release my Filipino records, one of the comments were like, oh, it sounds international, it sounds expensive, which for me, I get what they're trying to say, but there has to be a way that as Filipinos where we're able to be a little more loving and more supportive, not just with the reposting, but speaking good on our music, our production.
Yeah.
Nothing about my shit is better than what it was. I just put some cool plugins on it, and I taught my friends a couple ad libs, but Filipino music was always legendary, was always fucking fantastic. I didn't need to do shit to it. tweaked the certain tones of instruments. But if you listen to my records, and while I appreciate all the love and the celebration that I've been getting, because please continue to stream. But when you break it down, I didn't really change so much.
The soul is still there.
It's still very much there. I just added my little, you know,
like what I said, it made it that you're little,
yeah. And I wanted to bring that out because so much in my life has been like, oh, Troy. I remember this one time I told a tita, not like a related, like a tita, like, oh, I want to go to the Philippines and do stuff, and she would just full on rip on it, be like, oh, why are you going to go to the Philippines when you live in America? There's nothing there. So I grew up with this mentality of just having this. I mean, I didn't grow up with that in my heart, but like everybody's always like, you gotta be. There's nothing for you, nothing there. So back home or. And then when you flip it over here, it's just this whole war of trying to be more Filipino American, and I just really wanted to find a way to bridge that gap, because even as a kid that was so immersed in Filipino culture, I still was feeling a little bit of like, disconnect, or feeling like I didn't connect with my Filipino culture. And a lot of it came from like, the time where I pretended I wasn't Filipino, and a lot of it came from, me just trying to avoid certain things about my culture, or almost being ashamed, and it was my way of, again, it's just so many, again, it's very deep, but it's my way of saying sorry. It's my way of paying homage. It's my way of, opening doors for Filipino artists because I'm guilty of it too. When you grow up with that, I'm not going to be like, I was always an advocate. Like I believed certain things that,
like you said, you had titas who would say,
so I would be like,
ignore
okay,
that.
I was like, okay, tita, like I guess I have to just be white and put this Eskinol that I don't want to put on my face. It's like it's shit like that, and it's just like, you try to appease what you think that, and God bless them. It doesn't always, majority of the time, it doesn't come from a negative place. It's just a lot of how people grew up, and I think a lot of
perception nila yun eh.
Yeah, and we need to give people more grace. If I could say that on your podcast, in this day and age where everything is so open and woke and trauma healing, but we also need to learn how to give grace to people.
Amen.
And I learned that myself, and that really goes into how I approach my music and how I approach these albums. I really wanted to do a lot of healing for Filipinos and having a lot of connection. There's a lot of we have this colonial superiority complex that we think everything from the West is so good. So I really wanted to use Western tactics as like a catalyst to uplift
all those Filipino composers and
Eastern music
and songs that you did in those volume 1, 2, 3.
I brought it. I exposed it to
different level. It really does sound expensive and good, and in a good way.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so Sofronio, Morissette, all these artists who you're doing in 2025. How excited are you?
I'm so freaking excited. To be working with Filipino artists, but also good Filipino artists. Like Sofronio, the first Filipino to win The Voice, and of course, Asia's Phoenix, Morissette.
I thought you were going to say Sofronio, the first Filipino to do what I thought I was going to do.
That too. You know what, Sofronio? On that part, you know that you think about it.
Well, you're here first because he was supposed to come to the podcast before, but you're here first.
Right. I got on Paco's podcast first, Sofronio. No, I'm... What Sofronio has done for I told this to him. It was like, you should be very proud, because there's a lot of Filipinos, like millions, that have placed that dream into, and you made it a possibility
for all of them,
for all of
us.
It's almost like, how does that, like, it's almost like I won with him. Like you won for us. Like I remember the time where I auditioned and they were like, you're too this, you're too that. Fuck them, you won. Like,
even me. I mean, I had no plans of joining The Voice. I feel like I've won.
Right, because this beautiful brown Filipino, like, that sings his ass off, won,
And guess what? He had that rejection experience already.
I know.
Diba?
Ain't that a bitch?
Like, let's not lose hope. So, Morissette, how did that gig come about? Have you worked together?
We have a couple of times, but this is my first time that I'll be working with her as her musical director.
Is it because you did one of her songs?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you know, we've been following each other's careers for years, and after we did my album, we started, you know, gaining a more musical relationship and trust with each other. So yeah, I mean, it's probably because of the song, like because the reconnection that we had. So
Trivia, when we got this place, she was one of the first people that visited.
oh, she did this. She did it.
Not the podcast though, because there was no podcast yet. But the living room couch where you were seated, that was brand new. And she sat there with a plate of spaghetti, and I had to say, you're not putting spaghetti on my couch. And we were laughing about it. But
She's the sweetest.
it was still shoes off at that time.
Yes, always in a Filipino household.
Right? Who else? Who else are you? Okay. I've seen you work with Martin and with Dessa, and
Yes.
and the energy, the crowd, how you brought it with backing tracks, keyboards, your energy, Martin's energy, your energy, Dessa's energy, amazing.
Thank you.
Who among the Filipino artist lists is on your wish list?
On my wish list.
And I hope they're paying attention.
If you're watching, no.
If you're watching.
On my wish list.
And why, huh? Let's spice it up. Why?
Oh, and why? One of which I hope that we work together, because we have never, and I don't know why, because that would be just a match in heaven, is Leia Salonga. I love Miss Leia. If you're watching, my darling, please.
Perfect voice.
Just like the most pristine, legendary, beautiful voice. The second would be, oh my goodness, I don't work with, because I work with a lot of people in Philippines. No, I'm just trying to think like who I have it. You know, one. It's too late now, but one person that it has always been on my wish list, and I was actually gonna get her to do a show with me like years ago, but was Miss Pelita. Oh my goodness. That would have been, I wanted to do like, in my mind, I wanted to do some like Kondiman EP or something with her. Very simple.
Man.
But she would have been the most amazing. So yeah. And Miss Sharon.
Okay, how about Eli Buendia, Rico Blanco, Bamboo, these
Oh my
people?
God, yes. Like Ang Huling El Bimbo is one of my favorite songs. So him. I also want to work with Andrew E.
He's here in the States right now.
Is
huh?
he?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Andrew E.
Maybe
where
I
you
could create a group text for us after this.
You better stop. He's gonna facilitate an Andrew E. Troy Laureta collaboration.
That would be nice,
I
no?
would love to. But just everyone's always expecting me to work with like the biriteras. But I think when you ask me that, I wanna be able to also work with different genres of OPM. Because like there's more than just like the love songs and like the the power ballads. There's also hip hop and soul and all that. And there's so much new music coming out in the Philippines that another one on my list, Juan Carlos.
Oh,
I love him. An amazing artist, young artist, giving that like soulful rock vibes. So
I can connect you.
he knows everyone. This is my Rolodex. Please connect me.
Yeah, I will. I definitely will. Okay, how about Gary Valenciano? What if Gary Valenciano tells you to actually musical direct one of his?
I love Tito Gary. I mean, we've been
Shows.
wanting to work together for so long, but it just never aligned. But hell yeah! But he has like all like the bonggang
Yeah, exactly. But
MDs.
I was gonna say, but then again, how would Troy be behind the keyboard if Mon Faustino wasn't the one doing it? If it was you,
Oh, I love Mon Faustino.
would you be as wild as you were the day I saw you, or
Hell
would you,
yeah! I don't know if
would
Tito
you tone
Gary's
it down?
I never tone it down. Tito Gary will have to deal with this.
Yeah.
With all of this. Sana maulit muli, girl. No, I mean, I'm kidding, obviously. I'm not going to be doing this during Sana maulit muli. But like, I will, give it the same intensity that's appropriate for the vibe of the show.
Bruno Mars. Would you do Bruno Mars?
Who wouldn't do Bruno Mars? I would.
He hasn't contacted you.
Hell no. Well,
Unfortunately, Troy,
Not yet.
I can't hook you up with that.
can't. God damn it. No, Bruno. I mean, Bruno. We grew up in Hawaii, like together. No,
Who's older? He
he's
is
2 years older.
Okay.
So we were there at possibly the same time, but we never, connected. But hell yeah, I would love to work with Bruno Mars. But like Tito Gary, a lot of these artists already have their amazing musical.
Yeah, but what if you get the call? Hypothetical, since
we don't have to have a conversation.